Well, welcome back to another episode of the Agent Revolution podcast presented by Mike Wall Live. Talk about what it takes to build a billion-dollar team. But before we do that, don't forget you can go over to MikeWallLive.com where we have right now absolutely free 8 hours worth of free real estate business training. Mr. Wes Madden, fresh off the Isles of the Saints. Are you ready to go, man?
I think so. You know, my screen's froze up. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, man. Let me see if you're frozen.
I'll just talk.
You're frozen, but you're frozen in like a really good spot. Like you look really good, man. So if you just stay frozen like right there, you're gonna be golden. Or you can log out and come back, and that will work too. So it would not be the Agent Revolution podcast presented by MikeWallLive.com if we did not have technical difficulties. So let Wes log out and log right back in, and we are going to discuss how Mr. Wes Madden built almost $1 billion team. As you know, he sold over 1,100 units for $920 million last year. And I know a lot of you who are listening and logging in will be interested to hear Mr. Wes Madden's story. But while we do that, I do want to reiterate, guys, if you go over to MikeWallLive.com, please don't forget, I've got 8 hours worth of absolutely free real estate business training. Literally all you do is go to the site. There's a red icon button, click on it, register for the training, and you can jump right into it. We've got there's probably 15 different instructors that are teaching classes about lead generation, about building a team, about holding yourself accountable, about running numbers, running a P&L, all of the different components that are exciting, right? I guess exciting and very necessary in order to build a real estate business. Wes is logging back in now, so let me bring him back in. Brother, what's up, man? You're back.
I'm back. I am back.
I'm back, baby. I'm back.
You did the green screen. I think I was jamming us up because I was pretending to be on the beach.
I think it was the background, man, because I was going to say, now we just see the green screen, but it looks good, man. It looks good. It matches your eyes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anyway, man, so I was just telling the audience a little bit about you, man. So and trying to fill some time, but tell us a little bit about your background, man. I know you've been in the game for a little while. I know you've got a ton of value to drop, but how did you? Everybody has this unique story about how they got into real estate. Tell us how you came into real estate and kind of how you've built what you have.
Yeah, well, that's a story. Like a lot of people, it just kind of happened, right? It wasn't necessarily super intentional. I was actually an Army Black Hawk pilot in Alaska flying search and rescue medevac missions, believe it or not. And, and we were up there. My wife and I were living the Alaska life, enjoying all that there is to explore in Alaska, having fun. And it came a time where I came home from Afghanistan and decided to punch out and do something else, and got my real estate license and said, well, I'll give this a shot. And, the next thing you knew, we were, I was blowing up with business, and I quickly learned, hey, the bar was set so low that if I just did a good job, I'd have plenty of business coming in the door. And so we set out to do a great job, and we ended up growing a team, and then eventually a company, an independent brokerage up in Fairbanks, Alaska, and opened up some offices around the state. And that's really kind of how I got started into real estate.
And so how did you end up down in Florida?
Well, so, my Austin, Texas wife, whose lips used to turn blue in the freezer section of the grocery store. Alaska's cold, dark, it's a tough environment. And, living there is great. I mean, the summers are phenomenal. I can't think of a better place on earth to be than Alaska in the summer. If you haven't been, you need to go. But, we just kind of said, we always just kind of told ourselves, we said, our agreement was, if this ever stops being fun, we'll go do something else. And so, we started growing this business, and a lot of what I want to talk about is the eventual sale of my business and how you need to be thinking about, having the end in mind, really as you grow your business. Because, I had always had in my mind that I was going to grow a business to sell it at some point, have some asset to sell. And so that was always my mindset with growth. And so I was really fortunate that at the time that my wife said, "Hey, it's not fun anymore. It's time for us to move south, get closer to family." We were able to effect a sale of my company and found an opportunity down in Florida, and that all worked out. But really, it was we didn't want to be pushed out. We wanted to pull. Okay, so we wanted to pull for an opportunity, and a couple guys down here that I've known for many years. We shared a mutual coaching client, Bob Corcoran, for many years. Blake Marar and Chris Abbott. Blake had, coached with Bob Corcoran for, I think, 15 years. I had been with Bob for 13 years at the time. And so we had that connection, and Bob knew I wanted out, and Blake and Chris needed somebody to run the company. They were both, Chris and Blake were both, they were owner brokers who were also selling.
Right.
And really, to kind of take the business to the next level, they knew they needed someone just focused on the business part. And that's when we got connected. And it was a crazy enough idea. We were like, oh, why not? So it was a 3-day weekend. I didn't give it a whole lot of, I don't know. I was kind of, it was so far out there. I said, let's just go check it out. Yeah. Maybe we'll fall in love with it. And they said, you got to come down with the family. So we came down, took a trip down to the Panhandle of Florida here. If you've never been, you need to come down because, some of the, I think the best beaches in the country, beautiful architecture.
The water is the color of the screen behind Wes. It's not called the Emerald Coast for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, sugar sand, white beaches, that color water, it really is remarkable, and to have that, in a day's drive from the majority of United States is, it's definitely a secret that is becoming not a secret anymore. Sure. But I came down, we stayed in an area called Watercolor. I left 20 below, 2 feet of snow, came down here. My kids played on the beach. My wife and I had a cocktail and watched the sunset over the Gulf of Mexico. And I woke up that next morning and I'm like, what are we doing? Let's do this. We're within a day's drive of her family in Austin, Texas, and it all kind of worked out. But I think there's a lot of good faith in these things when you put this stuff together, and we definitely felt that pull that this was the right move for us. So, and then it came, so this was really interesting because I had found that pull and created this new opportunity down here. And it was a partnership opportunity. So, I was leaving an ownership opportunity. That was a big deal, and wanted to, I had grown an organization before and had management leadership experience from the military, and it seemed like a good fit. But then it came to, now I have to sell my company. And I'd been thinking about it for a long time, and I was prepped to do that. But that's where the rubber met the road. And one of probably the most important things that I did was, in talking to Chris and Blake, I said, I really need to have a date. So I said, when you want me down here? And they said February 1. And this was 2017.
Okay.
And had I not set that date, I don't know that I would have been here. So a lot of times you got to, the proverbial throw your hat over the fence, right? You got to give yourself a deadline. And, and that was something that Bob always taught me, coaching me is you got to set a deadline for everything you do. And so we set a deadline of being down here February 1. So I basically had 4 months to obtain a valuation, market, and then ultimately sell my company in Alaska. So no big deal, right?
Right.
Um, so I was able to retain, Real Trends Consulting to come and do a valuation. Steve Murray came, did a valuation on the company, had a great valuation. The problem was, and we had a lot of great offers there out of the gate. The problem was they wanted me. And, there's a lot of real estate agents, if you analyze your business, you look at your business, if you are doing everything, then what you're looking to sell is you. So, I had, maybe different than other real estate models. I had kind of backed my way out of production for many years. I was really running my business as a CEO and managing a staff that supported my agents that were out selling, and, highly leveraged agents that, had a very productive sales history. So, plus we had 75,000 active contacts in our database. That was another valuable piece. That was a tangible asset that I can look at and say, hey, we're communicating with 75,000 people. This is a value to you. So anyways, we had a lot of offers, but they all wanted me. Ultimately, we ended up finding the perfect buyers. It was a husband and wife team out of Anchorage that I've known for many years. I didn't know that they would be interested. And, another friend of mine, Matt Wagner, connected us and said, hey, what do you guys think? Put us together, and they flew right up right away. We sat down, went over everything, and they said, yeah, we really want to do this. So it's really been, just so many blessings that came along the way to get here. There were a lot of people involved, and I was very thankful for all that. And that's ultimately why we're 5,000 miles away from where we started here. And it's been great, man.
Yeah, that's an awesome story, man. So for you, like, from a production standpoint, when you sold the business, how much real estate were you guys doing like the previous year?
Yeah, we were kind of in that 600, and, I think we were doing about 630 transactions. That was like 135, 140 million in that market.
Sure.
For where we were. And we had offices in North Pole and Fairbanks at that time.
Sure.
And, so highly military, lots of turnover. It wasn't sexy real estate. But it was primary home selling, and
you mean kind of like Southwest Ohio?
Yeah, a little bit like Southwest Ohio. Exactly. Yeah. And high transaction volume. And I'll tell you, one of the things we were looking for is, I said, as we're looking for that next stop, I said, I want to be in a destination market. I want to be on the water. I'm a fisherman. I'm an avid. I got to be on the water all the time. There's just something about that. If I had to pick one thing, in the environment I wanted to live in, that was it for me. And also wanted a high average sales price, and we kind of checked all three of those boxes down here. And so
that's great, man. So you guys were doing around anywhere between 600, 650 units, around 130, 140 million bucks.
Yeah.
And one thing I don't want to gloss over here is that this is not something you decided to do on a whim. Although part of the story may lead you to believe that, you were very intentional about selling this business at some point. You just didn't know how and when, right? And then the right opportunity came along, and you sold it because you found the right buyer. But what I really want people to see there is, it is important that when you are building a saleable asset, that you do it with intention. And what I mean by that is, this is not something that you just turn around overnight and sell, right? I mean, you can set up your business so that it is a saleable asset, and there are some different ways to do that. And so I want you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, everyone's different. Everyone's business models. I will tell you, after going through that experience, one of the things, one of my primary duties here is to coach and mentor our agents here and build their businesses. Now I'm able to, kind of really focus on that. And I wouldn't discount the opportunities in being able to. I mean, you could still have a sellable business without having this giant team. And we'll talk more about that. But with my situation, what I had was I had built this this machine, if you will, and it had to be a machine. And just to back up, I mean, in Alaska, people come and go a lot, so my turnover was high, and it wasn't that we didn't have a high culture, great fun environment, because everyone loved working in our company. I mean, it was the company to work at. We had a lot of fun, and we accomplished a lot of things. We were very philanthropic in our town and in the state. But people would leave. You'd come to Alaska, you're there for a 3 or 4 year hitch, and then you leave. So I'd get somebody that, I'd get an agent come in and train them up. They'd be rock stars, and then they go, all right, see you later. The wife wants to take me down to lower 48, and so I had to just be better, at that, bringing in people that had that sales DNA, training them up, getting them ready to go, so that they can be successful very quickly. So I can fill those seats as people were leaving. So I think a lot of those challenges actually honed my skills, because when I got down to Florida, I'm going, are you kidding me? This is easy. You know what I mean? I couldn't believe how easy the deals are easy. The recruiting is, we'll talk about recruiting later. I mean, it's just the challenges that I was enduring up there. I didn't really realize how much that was really honing my skill set. But as far as growing that model, growing that system, I owned my own building. We invested in the building. I owned the building. We built it out to really service our company. So it was kind of a package deal. We had leadership in place. So a lot of those systems were just really dialed in, and for Ed and Dar Walden, who ended up buying the company, it was really a great move for them. So these guys are in Anchorage. They're wanting to expand their business. Well, how do you expand your business? Well, mergers and acquisitions is a great way to expand your business. Don't start over. I mean, the thought of starting over, it's just like, you couldn't pay me to start over again, but I would acquire someone else's business that's maybe looking to phase out. And that's just what Dar and Ed did. I mean, so they went from being, like a top 10 team in Alaska to being the #1 team in Alaska overnight, after we consummated the deal. Yeah. So they were really kind of plugged into our, and it worked. A lot of the tools and systems that we were using and implementing in Fairbanks, they were able to utilize in Anchorage, and they just came off their best year ever, or coming off their best year ever right now. I mean, they've already hit their best sales number this year thus far, and we're only in October. So, right. So it's really worked out well. So, I read Michael Gerber's E-Myth Revisited at one point in time. I think we all have like impactful books that we read that just kind of, is the difference that makes all the difference. And that was certainly a book that got me thinking about structuring the business correctly, so that I had kind of that franchise model there. Yeah. And I think everybody should be thinking, if you're growing your business, even if it's just you and you're a single agent. I know that the listeners here come from all different types of business models. So doesn't mean that if you're a solo agent that you can't design some of these systems and really kind of build some of these assets, as you alluded to.
Right. And I believe I did do a little research, and because if you Google Wes Madden, the Anchorage brokerage still comes up, and I'm not sure. I guess isn't it still called Wes Madden?
Yeah. So when they acquired the company, yeah. So one of the things was we were Madden Real Estate.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yep. And Dar and Ed, I mean, we had 25% market share in Fairbanks and North Pole. So it was kind of one of those, you're already known as Madden. They're not going to come in and change, So they were smart in branding and keeping that name. So it's just, now it's, Madden Real Estate with Keller Williams Alaska Group. Right. So yeah. And they were, and it's worked, fantastically. We had a radio show on Fridays that we would do. We were heavy in television and radio advertising. We had all this, marketing over the, almost 10-year time period that they were tapping into. And I think it was smart of them to keep that Madden piece in there, because we were a household name already. And then they just added the KW piece to it.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Wes. I'm curious, man. Would this have happened without the opportunity that you found down in Destin?
No. I mean, we really didn't want to. I mean, because we were making money. I mean, I was taking 10 weeks of vacation a year. I mean, it was like a 2-year period that we were looking, and I went all over. I really kind of went all over the West Coast looking for opportunities. I met with people, just kind of seeing if anything stuck, and it needed to pull at us, and we really needed to see where we were going to move our family and make sure we were going to enjoy it too. So we did some long trips, just kind of exploring and really attempting to figure out where we wanted to call home next. And we came down in the Panhandle and fell in love, and I think you really need to love where you live and where you sell, because that passion comes through when you're selling, and you can't really fake that. So.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, man. So, obviously you've been down in Destin now since 2017, I believe you said. What are you doing now that's different from what you were doing before, if anything?
Yeah. Well, very similar. The roles very similar, except so actually extremely similar, to be honest with you. So came down here and really focused on operations and getting the company's the company was doing really well. They were selling about $500 million in sales, which is nothing to shake a stick at. Yeah. And they were doing less transactions than I was doing in Alaska. So, they had almost $1 million average sales price at the time, and we had great agents. So all the pieces were in place. We had great culture. There wasn't any culture issues. So I was excited about that. So we really kind of spent like the first 6 months just kind of building the infrastructure of the company, because we sat down and said, we believe we can do $1 billion in sales here in this market. We analyzed the market. We looked at available agents in the marketplace, and so we set our sights on hitting $1 billion in sales.
Yeah.
And, so my focus was, operations, sales management and mentorship. I managed the staff that supports the agents. I set the strategic goals for the company, and I help with the business plan, really, as well as budgeting, and then recruiting, which is my passion, because I love bringing in culture enhancers, people that, when you've got great people, you shouldn't have to manage a whole lot. I mean, you got self-managed, self-disciplined people. They come in, they're rock stars. You're really just taking their business to the next level. And that's really what I enjoy. So I get to do all the things I used to do, all the mistakes you've made, all the failing forward experiences you've had. And I get to kind of share that with my agents and grow their business. And I'm living vicariously through 73 agents here. It's a blast, man.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What a great story. And again, that's, I feel like when you get into real estate, everybody kind of enters the same door, so to speak. It's like, you come on as a solo agent, and then maybe you get intentional about building a team. And then something happens to a specific type of person along the way. And like, I see, a lot of agents, and we talked about this the other day. I had a gentleman on out of Nevada, and we were talking about, there are business people that get into real estate, and then there are realtors that get into real estate, right? And so the business people take an entirely different approach to real estate, right? Because they're thinking about scaling, right? And then ultimately, when you get to the hierarchy of corporate America, right? You work your way up through the ranks and then ultimately end up in a CEO role. But you've got to fill in behind you, right? With, like you talked about, highly leveraged, right? And that's essentially what you're doing. And that's not something that happens overnight, although there are definitely better blueprints today than there were 15 years ago. Yeah. It's why do you think that? And I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Wes, I would say that's probably only about, 5 or 10% of real estate agents in the entire industry that think that way. Most of them get in, they just want to be a realtor, right? They just think about doing real estate. What do you think is and here's one thing I believe too. I believe there are people who are a lot smarter getting into the business today than if you rewind 20 years ago. And they're starting to figure out, the margins are really large in our industry, and that you're starting to see them scale fairly quickly because they have a business mind.
Yeah.
Do you think that's, I personally, I think it's revolutionizing the industry. I think it's providing a better consumer experience, because let's face it, for the past, 50 years, maybe even 100 years, we've been looked at with the likes of used car salesmen, right? And now we're starting to see business people get into the industry and raise the standard. But I'm curious, do you think the end of and I guess it's not the end, because we all need those types of people when we are in a CEO role, but do you think that that's putting pressure on the real estate agent who just kind of gets in and does it as a hobby?
Yeah, I'm certainly seeing a different type of agent down here. I mean, I can't speak for other parts of the country, but I got you have ex corporate, folks that come down, people who, maybe own their own business, and they come down, they think, hey, I think maybe I can get into real estate. And really looking at the leverage, I think you need to offer an opportunity that provides a lot of those leverage pieces, because you could be a C-level executive and then you come down and you get into real estate, not sell and struggle in this business, so you need to provide an opportunity that allows these smart, very talented people to come plug in and be successful there. And to your point about business people getting into real estate, that was me, man. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but after serving in the military, and I love my service, I wouldn't have done it any other way. I really, I'm honored to have had the privilege to be able to serve, but I wasn't fulfilled because I'm in there. It's more of like a marathon than a sprint. I was working too hard, taking on too many additional duties. The whole thing. If you've worked a salaried job before and you're an entrepreneur by heart, you are just square peg round hole, right? So I knew I wanted to start a business, and what would that look like? I had my MBA, I knew business, I just didn't know what it was. And that's why I looked at real estate and I said, wait a minute, I feel like I could build a real estate model that would work, so I think that's very appealing to a lot of people looking to get in. And the cool thing about real estate is, there isn't like a one size fits all model. I think you really need to assess yourself first and ask yourself, am I a salesperson, or am I a business person?
Yeah.
And if you're a salesperson, the first hire you should be making is bringing in somebody with a linear, operations type mindset that can do all the things that you're not blessed with the innate talents to do well. So bring in someone who's world-class to do all the back end stuff and actually do the business stuff. And you just keep selling, there's nothing wrong with that. My top team in my company, which will do 200 million this year, Jonathan Spears Group, perfect example. Jonathan Spears is one of the, he is we call him the Doogie Howser real estate, man. He's in his mid 20s and this guy is crushing it. And, as we're building his team, he loves selling. His love and passion is selling real estate. He doesn't want to run the team. He doesn't want to, focus on being a manager leader.
Right.
So what do? We bring in a director of business development, we brought in a guy that had experience running brokerages to come in and basically be the director of operations for his team, and kind of took all of that management piece off so Jonathan could be doing what he loves to do, and that is sell. So, back to E-Myth Revisited, really focus on the strengths of your folks and putting people in the right seats on the bus.
Yeah, man, great point. That's awesome. I'll have to reach out to Jonathan and get him on the show as well, man. I'm interested to hear his story. But
great.
Yeah, let me ask you this, man. Obviously, you've risen up through the ranks, so to speak, because of what you've built and your past experiences. When you came into Destin, you probably had a really good idea of what you wanted to do, and you talked about building infrastructure. Can you elaborate on what it is exactly that you did to go from $500 million to almost? You guys are $920 million. You've almost doubled the production level of the office. Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, and in fact, second week of September, I'm excited to say, we hit our $1 billion sales goal already.
Wow! Yeah. Congratulations, man.
Yeah, so we're a strong year. We're very blessed. It's been an amazing pandemic for us, I guess. Florida's been the anomaly. We're wide open, and everyone's kind of coming down here to seek normalcy in the beach. So, but that being said, operationally, start first with onboarding and training. You got to have an onboarding and training process that allows you to be able to bring someone in. Because the moment I can't recruit to crap, I can't recruit something where we bring you in. So if we're going to grow the company, we got to do that with adding in elite agents. And well, I can't go pitch to elite agents that we got the best tools and systems if we don't, so let's build them. So onboarding and training. So a continual training. We had to put in place transaction and listing coordination. A little bit lighter. I'm a traditional brokerage. We have a very close team environment, but we're what would be considered a traditional brokerage within the industry. But we wanted to have enough services that kept, if I brought you in as a single agent, that we're offering enough services to you that you would never leave. So the system basically re-recruits you and keeps you retained and not looking over the fence. So we wanted to have, marketing services that had no equal. We wanted to have some a la carte assistant opportunities. So if I'm an agent, I come in, I'm one of those salespeople that doesn't want to manage anybody and I don't want an assistant. Well, what are those assistant things that we can offer? Well, there's transaction management, there's listing coordination, and then we take care of all your marketing so that you don't have to do those things and you can focus on what you do best, which is selling.
Yeah.
So so that's really what we focused on, as well as building out our staff. I mean, I went on a regional hunt to find just the best talent we could possibly have. Kind of looked at what would the company look like if we're doing $1 billion in sales and servicing 75 agents. How many people do we need to have? And we just kind of swung for the fences and got great people in. And my staff is, they're all workhorses. They are. They love what they do. We take care of them. We pay them well. Everyone's got a different philosophy with, staff and employees and how they treat them. I just don't. I'm from the camp. I don't want my people to ever worry about anything. We take care of them, and if they're taken care of in their personal life, and we're really focusing on their career advancement and caring for them, and they know that we care, man, they'll crawl through a minefield for you to get things done, and support the company, and that's what we have.
No, right, man. And where are you, just out of curiosity, where are you finding most of your? I guess there's agent recruiting, right, and then there's staff recruiting. So as it relates to agents, where are you being able or finding your best luck recruiting?
Yeah, great question. So we have an ideal agent profile that we've outlined on who we're looking for. So what we do is every quarter we talk to our agents. We do a weekly sales meeting with all of our agents, and everyone shows up. We don't make them; they all show up because it's packed with value. But we talk about what is our ideal agent? What do they look? What do they look like? What do they? Yeah. Production's only one dynamic of the seven, right? But when we're looking for somebody, our people know what right looks like really more than anybody. And what was cool is I've never sold down here, so I didn't have any preconceived notions on, what agents I like or don't like. So it was really interesting getting to meet a lot of these agents for the first time. So agent referrals, we don't bring anybody into the company that hasn't been referred by one of our existing agents.
Got it.
And that kind of helps weed everybody out. So that'll also help curtail the scarcity mentality that can creep up if you're in this rapid growth stage. So if you start bringing in a bunch of agents and they don't really feel like they have a say in it, because each person I bring in impacts the business of all of my other agents.
Absolutely.
If I bring in somebody who's a knucklehead and they're out there doing, stuff out in the marketplace that's embarrassing our brand or tarnishing our brand, it affects, on all of our agents that we've agreed to partner with. So, we had to really have some hard conversation. We had some conversation. We had conversations with our agents, and really what we needed to do was tell them what our goals were. And our goal was to cap our sales team at 75 agents and upgrade that sales team every year. So every year we're like, listen, we're probably going to let some people go, and we're going to replace them with people who are better fits for our company. And if you don't fit the company, that's okay. We're going to help you transition to another place in the marketplace, and it's not ever going to be, but we're going to be really slow to hire. Our vetting process is slow and deliberate. We want to make sure that we don't misstep on finding fits for our company, and largely we've been very successful. Big part of our growth has been recruiting a little over 350 million in recruited sales volume. agents in the marketplace. So,
nice, man. Excellent. And you guys do have a great reputation in the community there. I do know that. And it probably contributes towards your recruiting. It's more like, and I'm sure you guys are probably capped right now at your 75 and still evaluating talent, right? And that's something that you always do. I'm curious, man, like, where do you go from here, Wes? Because obviously, you know, you guys, September, you had $1 billion. Like, what's next?
2 billion, right? I think that's the next. Yeah, we'll establish some benchmarks that we think are achievable and realistic. And, I think, for us as a traditional brokerage, there's some things that we haven't yet had the chance to dive into. I mean, ancillary services, joint ventures with title or mortgage, looking at some of those opportunities, possibly, looking at some of our shoulder markets around us.
Sure.
There's always some opportunities there, but you're right. You get that, you achieve, and that's the challenge, right? You got to sit down and really, you got to conduct this every time you achieve a goal. You got to sit down and really kind of get focused on visioning for the next step. And so you keep yourself stimulated, because all too often, high achievers tend to kind of get, you get like, uninspired, because you keep accomplishing everything you set out to do. So what's next? And I think, be careful not to be the enemy of yourself. High achievers also, and those that are tuning in here, I think we're a lot of times quick to be hard charging so much that we don't take time to really focus on what's really important, and that's our relationships, with our family, and some of the things that maybe we don't slow down and take the time to focus on. And that was a big part of our move. Moving to Florida, selling my business and moving to Florida, it was as much as proving to myself that I could really put my hierarchy of importance in my life, God, family, business, really kind of putting those things in that order, and walking the walk, not just talking the talk. So, it was hard. I'm not gonna lie. I cried like a baby when I had to sign the papers with Ed. It was very emotional, because I had poured my heart and soul into that business. But, you need to have the confidence to be able to take bold moves, especially if it's for the right reasons, and family's always a good reason to do that. So
yeah, it's such a great point, man. And I know we're up against the clock here. I do have one other question for you, and you just brought this actually into my mind. Darren Hardy, and I actually have this quote on my Facebook page, but he talks about you talked about being uninspired. So there's being inspired, and it almost feels like a drug, right? When you're inspired, like you're reinvigorated into your business. But what happens is oftentimes we don't realize that we're uninspired, because it's more of a drift. It's not, you don't drop off a cliff and then you're uninspired. You drift into uninspiration, if that's a word, or whatever the word is, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. So let me ask you this. Having said that, what is it that keeps you inspired now?
I think for me, it's growth. It sounds really cheesy, but I'm a big, focus on, I don't really believe that we outsell our competition. I think we outdiscipline our competition. And I think a lot of times this, business and life, it's you got to be keeping score, right? Yeah. And if you're making progress in whatever areas you're keeping track of, that inspires me. And when you're crossing, when you're achieving some of those goals in whatever respective area of your life, for business, this sounds, I'm really excited that over 90% of my agents are going to meet their sales goals this year. When I first got down here, we were, less than 6% of my agents were even hitting their sales goals, because they didn't have good goal setting to begin with, and they weren't keeping track. And so the fact that we went from having a whole, bunch of agents that were just kind of, running their businesses by the seat of their pants, to now they're running actionable, trackable businesses, that's inspiring to me. But I think you need to find what whether that's spending more time with your family, what you want to do, going traveling, whatever that, philanthropy. If you haven't tapped in, one thing I want to leave you with is, we asked about recruiting and what attracts people to your company. One of the things that we were very strong with in Alaska was philanthropy. I mean, we did a coat drive, a book drive, a food drive. I mean, we were constantly giving back, a toy drive over Christmas. I mean, we really leveraged our marketing exposure to help the community out. And that drove not only a lot of business, but a lot of people came and said, I want to be a part of what you guys are doing in our community, because you guys are like a force for good. And we were really giving back to the community. So if you're in one of those small towns like that, I highly recommend, and that will feed your soul. I'm very proud of what we were able to do. Ultimately, our company was named the Business of the Year by the Alaska State Chamber. I don't know of a real estate company that's ever gotten the state chamber to, award them Business of the Year. So that was a really proud accomplishment, and we're going to set out to do that down here. I'd like for that to happen to this company here as well. So,
yeah, man, great story. And you deserve all the success you're getting, man. You're a great dude, and it's certainly been an honor to spend 40 minutes with you here this afternoon. And I am humbled and very appreciative that you took the time out of your busy day to share with our audience. Let me ask you this, man. If people have questions or want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach out to you, Wes?
You can email me at, you hit me up on Facebook, or email me at wes@scenicsir.com. Or you can, I don't know if I can post that up on here.
Yeah, the comments are on the right-hand side if you want. If you just click on the, you see that very far right top, there should be a box there that says comments. If not, I'll make sure I post it anyway.
Yeah, share my email address on there. This is a small industry when you get down to it. I'm very thankful for you having me on here, Mike. I mean, you're doing, I don't know how you do all that you do, but I will tell you that, your purpose in our industry is needed. And this, man, just keep tuning in, and I'm going to connect you to Jonathan. I want you to interview Jonathan.
I got to get him on, man. So that way, when I reach out to him, I won't look like a complete idiot. Be like, I do know Wes. I'm not just making that up. Listen, man, it's been so fun. Again, I really appreciate you having on the show. I absolutely love sharing these stories week after week, because I know this show is literally changing agents' financial lives, my own included. Do me a big favor. If you know someone that might enjoy the podcast, please, please, please share it with them. And if you like the podcast, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure you subscribe. If you like Mr. Wes Madden's episode, please give us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit MikeWallLive.com, where we have 8 hours worth of absolutely free real estate business training. For Wes Madden, this is Mike Wall, and we are signing off. Wes, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, brother.
Absolutely. All right.